Imagine standing on a windswept Estonian shore, the Baltic Sea crashing against jagged rocks under a sky bruised with dawn's first light. It's around 750 AD, and the world feels raw, untamed, like it's holding its breath for something monumental. You're at the Somme burial site, where two longships lie half-buried in the sand, their weathered planks hiding a secret locked away for centuries. As you brush away the earth, you uncover the bones of 40 warriors, their skeletons frozen in a moment of violence. Skulls split by axes, hands nearly severed from desperate defensive blows, vertebrae sliced clean by swords. These aren't the remains of peaceful traders or farmers. These are the proto-Vikings, the shadowy forerunners of a name that will soon strike terror across Europe. Welcome to the human wild, where we dive into the raw, unfiltered stories of humanity's past. And today, we're starting at the very beginning of the Viking saga, a tale of desperation, ingenuity, and blood that set the stage for an era that changed the world. Picture yourself kneeling beside one of these warriors, his hand still clutching the hilt of a sword, its blade pitted from battle. The square hole in his skull tells you he didn't go down easily. It's the mark of an axe, swung with precision by an enemy who knew their craft. Nearby, another man's neck bones bear the clean cut of a decapitation. A strike so swift it must have been over in an instant. These men didn't die at home, surrounded by family. They fell far from their fjords on a foreign shore, their bodies carefully gathered and buried with honor by comrades who survived whatever chaos unfolded here. This isn't just a grave. It's a snapshot of a world on the brink, where ambition and survival were starting to collide. Let's step back to a small farmstead in what will one day be Uppland, Sweden, around 700 AD. The winter is brutal, the kind that seeps into your bones and doesn't let go. Inside a smoky longhouse, Svend wakes to the faint cry of his youngest child, the sound barely rising above the howl of the wind outside. The hearth's embers cast a dim glow, illuminating his wife, Freya, as she stirs, her face gaunt from months of short rations. "The child needs food," she whispers, her voice heavy with exhaustion. "We all do." Svend doesn't answer right away. He walks to the hearth, staring into the dying fire, his mind racing. His parents didn't survive the last winter, and 2 of his 5 children are already gone, taken by hunger and illness. The cattle, once the family's lifeline, have been slaughtered, their meat long since eaten. Through the smoke hole in the roof, Svend watches the stars fade, and in that moment, a decision takes root. One that will ripple far beyond this frozen farmstead. This wasn't just Svend's struggle. Across Scandinavia, modern-day Denmark, Norway, and Sweden, the land was a harsh master. The growing season was short, the soil thin and rocky, barely yielding enough to feed a family, let alone a growing population. For centuries, these people had scraped by, supplementing meager harvests with hunting, fishing, and small-scale trade. But the world was changing. The climate was cooling, crops were failing more often, and the population had swelled in better years, leaving too many mouths to feed. Add to that the political shifts. Local chieftains, once flush with resources to host feasts and secure loyalty, were struggling as their lands produced less. Young warriors, trained to wield swords and axes, found fewer paths to wealth or status. The north was a pressure cooker, and something was about to break. Svend's eldest son, Halfdan, steps into the longhouse, his 16-year-old frame already taller than his father's, his hands calloused from working the land. "You're thinking about it again," he says, his voice steady, not questioning but knowing. Svend nods. He's heard the stories. Tales of men who sailed east across the Baltic, men like Bjorn Ironsides, who returned last autumn with silver, furs, and amber. Bjorn lost only 2 ships to storms, not enemies, and his men spoke of the gods favoring their journey. "The gods favor those who act," Svend tells Halfdan, his voice firm but heavy. Freya, cradling their youngest, looks at him with weary eyes. "You would leave us?" she asks, but there's no fight in her words. She knows the stakes. One successful voyage could mean enough wealth to rebuild their herd, to buy more land to survive the next winter. The alternative is a slow death, for them and their children. This is the spark that lit the fuse. Men like Svend, driven by necessity, began to look beyond their fjords and forests. To the east lay lands rich in furs, silver, and slaves. To the west, the post-Roman world glittered with unguarded wealth. But to reach these places, they needed more than courage. They needed ships, weapons, and a mindset that could turn desperation into opportunity. Let's meet Gudmund, a shipwright in a coastal settlement, his hands gnarled from decades of carving oak. He's working on a longship, its sleek hull taking shape under his skilled hands. She'll be the fastest yet, he tells Bjorn Ironsides, who's commissioned this vessel. The ship is a marvel, long, narrow, built with overlapping planks for flexibility and strength. Its shallow draft letting it glide up rivers or land on any beach. Powered by sail or oars, it's a machine for speed and surprise, perfect for trading or raiding. Building a ship like this was no small feat. A single longship required dozens of tall oaks, a resource growing scarce as forests were cleared for farmland. Iron rivets demanded weeks of a blacksmith's labor. The woolen sail, treated with horse fat to shed water, could take a year to weave. These ships were investments, symbols of ambition, and the key to a new kind of enterprise, one that blended exploration, trade, and violence. Back at Somme, those buried warriors sailed ships like these, their expedition a testament to the risks they took. Their graves, carefully constructed despite the dangers of hostile territory, show a deep sense of honor, a commitment to ensuring their fallen comrades reached the afterlife. As we stand on this shore, looking at their bones, we're not just seeing a grave, we're seeing the birth of a phenomenon, one that will soon set the world ablaze. Let's follow Svend and Halfdan as they prepare to sail east, into a world of trade and treachery, where the first steps of the Viking saga are about to unfold. The Baltic Sea stretches before us, its gray waves chopping against the hull of a longship slicing through the water. It's 755 AD, and we're standing at the prow beside Halfdan, now 18, his eyes scanning the horizon for a hidden cove his father, Svend, described. A sheltered harbor on the Estonian coast, perfect for a camp. The air is sharp with salt and pine, and the creak of oars mixes with the low voices of 30 warriors, their hands steady but their faces tense. Svend's ship leads 2 others, a small fleet from their Swedish homeland, each man armed with a sword, axe or spear, their shields ready at their sides. This is the human wild, and we're sailing east with the proto-Vikings, into a world where trade and violence dance on a knife's edge, where the first threads of a vast network are being woven. As the ships beach on the rocky shore, Halfdan leaps out, directing the younger warriors to set up a defensive perimeter. We're few, they're many, Svend calls, his voice carrying over the waves' roar. Trade first, fight only if we must. The men nod, their eyes scanning the treeline for movement. This isn't their first voyage. Svend led a smaller expedition last year, returning with enough furs to trade for a new cow. But it's their boldest yet. They're heading for a settlement that will one day be called Staraya Ladiga, a trading hub near Lake Ladiga in what's now Russia. This place is a crossroads, where Scandinavian traders meet Finnic and Slavic locals, their wooden workshops buzzing with the crafting of amber beads, antler combs, and iron tools. It's not just a market, it's the seed of a trade network that will stretch from the Baltic to Byzantium. Picture yourself in Halfdan's boots, standing on this foreign shore, your sword at your hip, your father's lessons in your head. You've learned to read the currents, to barter with men who don't speak your tongue, to keep your blade ready without drawing first blood. 2 days after setting camp, a delegation from the settlement arrives, led by a Finnic trader who's spent time in Scandinavia and knows enough Norse to negotiate. The talks are tense. Svend's crew can trade, but only 10 warriors may enter the settlement at a time, and they must leave their shields behind. It's a stark reminder that you're outsiders here, valued for your goods but feared for your strength. The deal is struck. Amber, honey, and iron weapons from Scandinavia for furs, silver coins, and, though it's hard to say aloud, slaves, taken in local conflicts or raids. The trade is brisk. Over weeks, Svend's men exchange their goods, act as middlemen between coastal settlements, and learn the lay of the land. Their ships ride lower in the water by summer's end, heavy with furs and silver, proof that the risk was worth it. But not every venture ends in profit. Think back to those some warriors, buried just a few miles from here. Their bones tell a different story, one of violence, not trade. Skulls split, hands severed, necks slashed. These men fought hard and lost. Maybe a trade deal soured, escalating into bloodshed. Maybe they were mercenaries betrayed by their employers. Or perhaps they were raiders who bit off more than they could chew. Whatever happened, their comrades took the time to bury them properly, dragging their ships inland and mounding earth over them. A final act of loyalty in a hostile land. This is the proto-Viking way, pragmatic, calculated, always ready for a deal or a fight. Every expedition teaches them something new. Which routes are safest, which settlements are friendly, which ones have warriors worth avoiding. Back home, around winter hearths, Svend and Halfdan share these tales, their words sparking ambition in others. Bjorn Ironsides traded for silver in the east. They say, but you need a sharp blade and sharper wits. Each story is a map, guiding the next wave of restless men. Staraya Latiga is becoming a hub, its longhouses and workshops a testament to the growing Scandinavian presence. Amber from these shores will travel to Islamic markets. Silver dirhams will flow back to Scandinavia, funding more ships, more voyages, more dreams. But there's a darker side. The slave trade, as brutal as it is part of this economy. Captives, often young and strong, are shipped south to markets hungry for labor. It's a grim reality, one that weighs on men like Halfdan, who've seen the human cost but know their survival depends on it. As the expedition prepares to sail home, the Baltic storm's brewing. Svend gives the order to move fast. The men are tired but triumphant, their minds already turning to the next voyage. They've tasted wealth, seen what's possible, and felt the thrill of a world bigger than their fjords. As their ships vanish into the mist, the eastern routes are proving their worth, but new horizons are calling. The Baltic was a testing ground, but the West, wild, wealthy, and vulnerable, is where the real game begins. Let's follow these restless seafarers as they turn their prows toward the North Sea, where ambition meets opportunity. The North Sea roars around us, its waves crashing against the hull of a longship as we stand beside Bjorn Ironsides, his eyes locked on a jagged coastline ahead. It's around 760 AD, and we've just crossed one of the wildest seas in the world to reach the Shetland Islands, a windswept outpost where the Atlantic meets the north. The air is sharp with salt, the cliffs loom stark against the gray sky, and small Pictish settlements, the landscape, their smoke rising from huddled homes. Bjorn's 3 ships, each carrying 30 warriors, have battled storms to get here, their clinker-built hulls flexing like living things. Good harbors, Bjorn says to his second-in-command, Hakon, as he surveys a sheltered cove. And settlements. We'll see what they offer. This is the human wild, and we're chasing the proto-Vikings as they venture west, into a world of untapped wealth and uncharted dangers. The crossing was no small feat. Unlike the Baltic's sheltered waters, the North Sea is a beast, its storms sudden and merciless. Bjorn's ships are sturdier than Svend's were, built for open water, their sails reinforced to catch the fiercest gales. As the men beach their vessels, the locals watch from a distance, wary but curious. These Picts have seen traders before, Frisians, Danes, but the dragon prows and gleaming swords of Bjorn's crew are something new. We show strength but keep our blades sheathed. Bjorn tells Hakon, trade first, let's hear their terms. The negotiations begin under a cold drizzle, with gestures and broken words bridging the language gap. Bjorn's men offer iron tools, amber, and weapons. The locals counter with wool, leather, and whispers of a monastery on a nearby island, its treasures gleaming with gold and silver, its monks unguarded. This is why they're here. The eastern routes, like Staraya Ladiga, were profitable but crowded, with Finnic and Slavic tribes growing savvier, their defenses stronger. The west offers something different. Isolated communities, wealthy religious centers, kingdoms too fractured to mount a unified defense. Bjorn's not ready to raid yet, but he's listening, gathering intel. "We came to trade," he says, his voice steady but his eyes sharp. "Still, we should see this place of wealth." The men spend days in the Shetlands, trading goods, mapping harbors, learning the currents. Every conversation, every deal, adds to their mental atlas, a map of vulnerabilities that will guide future expeditions. Picture yourself as one of Bjorn's warriors, your shield heavy on your back, the sea's chill still in your bones. You've heard the stories of easy wealth out west, of monasteries fat with treasure, but you also know the risks. The Picts aren't defenseless, and the Christian kingdoms to the south are starting to notice strangers from the north. Yet there's something intoxicating about standing here, on the edge of the known world, where a single voyage could make you rich enough to buy land, to marry well, to be remembered. Bjorn's ambition is infectious. He's not just a warrior but a visionary, a man who sees beyond the next raid to a future where his people dominate these seas. Back home, this western push is changing everything. The wealth Bjorn brings back, silver arm rings, Frankish swords, exotic goods, sets him apart from traditional chieftains, whose power relies on local loyalty and meager harvests. His success is drawing followers, young men eager for their share of glory. Settlements like Lidra and Gamla Uppsala are growing, their halls bigger, their workshops churning out jewelry and weapons from foreign materials. Power is shifting, concentrating in the hands of men who can deliver wealth from abroad. Bjorn's not a king yet, but he's more than a chieftain, a warlord, rewriting the rules of authority with every voyage. As the expedition prepares to sail south, toward the English coast, the men are buzzing with anticipation. The monastery they've heard about is a tempting target, but Bjorn's cautious, weighing risks against rewards. This is the proto-Viking way: probe, learn, strike when the time is right. The North Sea has tested their ships and their nerve, but it's also shown them what's possible. As the sails catch the wind, the Shetlands fade behind them, and a new horizon beckons, one where the first blood of the Viking Age is about to be spilled. The year is 793 AD, and we're standing on the deck of a longship, its dragon prow slicing through the waves as the rocky island of Lindisfarne comes into view. The Northumbrian coast is a faint line on the horizon, but the monastery ahead stands out, stone buildings gleaming against green hills, a beacon of wealth in a turbulent world. Ragnar, a leader whose name will soon echo through history, grips the helm, his eyes cold with purpose. "The priests don't fight," he tells his men, his voice cutting through the wind. "Take the gold, the silver, the jeweled manuscripts. Take strong captives. Kill only those who resist." This is the human wild, and we're witnessing the moment the Viking Age ignites, the raid on Lindisfarne, where the Proto-Vikings' ambition and precision draw first blood. Ragnar's fleet is formidable: 6 ships, over 200 warriors, hardened by years of eastern trade and western scouting. This isn't a random strike. Lindisfarne was chosen deliberately, its wealth whispered about by traders like Bjorn, its tidal island location making it vulnerable when the tide is high. As the ships beach on the rocky shore, the monks spot the dragon prows and panic spreads. Some flee toward the cliffs, others kneel in prayer, clutching crosses as if faith could shield them. A few younger monks grab staffs or farm tools, their courage outstripping their skill. This one fights with a stick. Hastian, Ragnar's lieutenant, laughs, deflecting a blow. He has spirit. Ragnar's response is pragmatic. Take him alive. Strong men fetch good prices. The raid unfolds with brutal efficiency. The warriors move through the monastery, stripping altars of silver reliquaries, tearing gold-embellished gospels from their shelves, selecting captives with care. They don't burn the buildings. Destruction doesn't pay. Within hours, the ships are loaded, the tide is turning, and Ragnar gives the order to sail. By nightfall, we'll be gone, he says, scanning the horizon for pursuit. The longship's shallow draft lets them vanish into the sea, leaving smoke and grief behind. This speed, this precision, is what makes the raid so devastating. The monks who survive are left in shock, their sacred space violated, their brothers dead or bound for slave markets in distant lands. This isn't just a robbery, it's a seismic event. Lindisfarne is a heart of Christian learning, a symbol of faith in Northumbria. Its violation sends a message. Nowhere is safe, not even God's house. Alcuin, writing from Charlemagne's court, captures the horror. Never before has such terror appeared in Britain as we have now suffered from a pagan race. The church of St. Cuthbert is spattered with the blood of priests. For a religious society, this is sacrilege, a challenge to the divine order. The Vikings' paganism adds a layer of terror, framing the attack as a clash of gods, not just men. The human cost is staggering. Picture a young monk, dragged from the scriptorium, his hands bound, watching his home burn as he's pulled toward a ship. His future, enslavement in a foreign land, is a fate worse than death for those left behind, who'll never know what became of him. But for Ragnar's men, this is a triumph. The gold and silver will fund more ships, more warriors. The captives will bring wealth in eastern markets. And the reputation they've earned, merciless, unstoppable, will make future targets hesitate to resist. This raid isn't a one-off. It's the culmination of decades of preparation. Eastern trade routes teaching navigation, Western scouting revealing vulnerabilities, longships perfected for speed and surprise. But it's also a response to a growing threat. Down south, Charlemagne's empire is pushing north, destroying pagan sites, forcing baptisms. For Scandinavians, raiding monasteries isn't just about wealth. It's about striking back at a faith that threatens their own. As Ragnar's ships disappear into the mist, they're carrying more than plunder. They're carrying a reputation that will echo through history, setting the stage for a new kind of power. We're standing in a crowded hall in Denmark, around 780 AD, the air thick with wood smoke and the murmur of voices. The firelight dances on the walls, illuminating Bjorn Ironsides, now a grizzled warlord, his forearms gleaming with silver arm rings from eastern and western voyages. 40 warriors stand behind him, their loyalty forged in the spoils of those journeys. This is the human wild, and we're in the crucible of kings, where the wealth and ambition of men like Bjorn are forging a new order in Scandinavia, one that will birth the Viking Age in all its glory and terror. The hall is hosting a thing, the traditional assembly where free men settle disputes and shape their future. Bjorn steps forward, his presence commanding silence. The Danish king sends raiders to our southern shores, he says, his voice steady but urgent. 3 farmsteads burned last month, 2 boats seized. This cannot stand. The crowd stirs, rival tribes are growing bold, and the Frankish emperor, Charlemagne, is pushing north, his armies a shadow on the horizon. We must unite, Bjorn declares. Not just this district, but the 5 around us. Together, we can build a fleet to protect our shores and carry the fight to our enemies. This is a turning point. Scandinavia's patchwork of chieftaincies is fraying under pressure. Failed harvests, growing populations, and external threats are straining the old ways. Bjorn's wealth, earned through raids and trade, gives him an edge over traditional leaders. His hall, larger than any in the region, is filled with imported treasures. Frankish swords, Islamic coins, Byzantine silks. These aren't just trophies. They're tools of power, buying loyalty, funding ships, and signaling his rise. Across Scandinavia, settlements like Lidra and Gamla Uppsala are transforming, their workshops crafting goods from foreign materials, their defenses growing stronger. But power demands more than wealth, it needs legitimacy. Bjorn meets with the local Godi, a chieftain and priest, in a sacred grove under ancient oaks. The people need a sign the gods favor this union, the Godi says, his eyes sharp. Bjorn agrees, and at the next full moon, representatives from 5 districts gather. 9 horses, 9 cattle, 9 sheep, 9 hogs are sacrificed, their blood sprinkled over the crowd, their meat shared in a feast that binds these communities together. This isn't just ritual. It's politics, tying Bjorn's ambition to the will of Odin, the war god who values wisdom and strength. The crowd feels it, the shared blood, the shared meal, the sense of something bigger taking shape. External pressures are driving this change. Charlemagne's Saxon wars are creeping closer, his armies destroying pagan sites, forcing conversions at sword point. For Scandinavians, this is an assault on their gods, their identity. Bjorn's push for unity isn't just about power. It's about survival, about building a force that can resist the Christian tide. His warriors, hardened by voyages like the one to Lindisfarne, are ready to follow him, their loyalty fueled by the promise of more raids, more wealth. Picture yourself as one of those warriors, standing in the grove, the blood of the sacrifice warm on your skin. You've sailed with Bjorn, seen the silver he's brought back, felt the thrill of victory. But you also know the risks. Every voyage could be your last. Yet there's a fire in this moment, a sense that you're part of a new order, one where men like Bjorn are forging kingdoms from ambition and iron. As the feast stretches into the night, Bjorn moves among the crowd, sealing alliances, his hall under construction nearby, a symbol of a power that will soon challenge the world. We're in a smoky Danish hall, around 785 AD, the firelight casting long shadows as King Sigurd, son of Bjorn Ironsides, paces before his advisors. A young warrior, Halfdan, stands before him, his face weathered from a recent voyage south. Charlemagne's armies push north. Halfdan reports, his voice low but urgent. The Saxons fight, but many are baptized by force. Those who resist are killed. Sigurd's eyes narrow. How close are they? He asks. To the Elbe, Halfdan replies. Some say he won't stop until all pagans kneel to his god. This is the human wild, and we're in the forge of conflict, where external threats and internal ambition are shaping the Vikings into a force that will shake Europe. The hall grows quiet, the weight of Halfdan's words sinking in. Charlemagne's empire is a juggernaut, its armies disciplined, its mission both conquest and conversion. His destruction of the Saxon Irminsul, a sacred pillar, is a direct challenge to pagan beliefs. For Sigurd and his people, this isn't just politics, it's existential. We have 3 paths, Sigurd says, his voice steady. Wait for the Franks to reach us, strike south to aid the Saxons, or turn west to weaker targets. The advisors murmur, but Sigurd's mind is made up. Fighting Charlemagne head-on is folly. The West, Britain, Ireland, the Atlantic Islands, offers wealth with less risk. Let's follow Halfdan as he leads 3 ships toward the northern islands, beyond Pictish lands. Explore, trade, find targets for larger forces, Sigurd instructed. The North Sea is a brutal test. Its storms fiercer than the Baltics, but Halfdan's ships are built for it. Their hulls strong, their sails taut. The men are quiet, their hands tight on the oars, their minds on the wealth ahead, gold, silver, captives. But they also know the stakes. Charlemagne's advance is a shadow over their homeland, pushing them to act, to prove their gods are stronger than the Christian one. As they anchor in a sheltered bay, locals approach, wary but open to trade. Halfdan negotiates, offering iron tools for wool and information. The talk turns to a nearby monastery, its treasures unguarded, its monks more focused on prayer than defense. Halfdan listens, his mind calculating. This is the Viking way in the making: probe, learn, strike strategically. The raids aren't just about loot. They're a response to the Christian threat, a way to weaken an enemy while strengthening home. Striking monasteries isn't just practical. It's symbolic, a blow against a faith that's trying to erase theirs. The broader picture is stark. Charlemagne's pressure is forcing Scandinavia to adapt. Defensive earthworks rise around settlements. Halls grow larger. Leaders like Sigurd consolidate power. The wealth from raids funds these changes, turning tribes into proto-kingdoms. But it's also forging a shared identity. Danes, Norsemen, Swedes united by their gods and their defiance. Imagine being one of Halfdan's warriors, standing on the deck as the islands loom closer. You're not just chasing gold, you're fighting for your way of life, for Odin and Thor, for a future where your people stand tall. As Halfdan's ships prepare to move on, the monastery in their sights, the conflict is heating up. The Christian world is waking to the threat from the north, and the Vikings are sharpening their blades for a fight that will define an era. It's 793 AD, and we're standing on a Danish headland, the dawn light glinting off 23 longships lined along the shore. Nearly 1,000 warriors are readying to sail, their dragon prows sharp against the gray sea. Ragnar stands at the center, his eyes fierce, a raven banner flapping above his flagship. Odin's symbol, a promise of victory. Never before has such a force sailed from our shores. Hastian, his lieutenant, says, his voice thick with anticipation. This is the human wild, and we're witnessing the Viking age take flight, as the Raven banner rises and a new power storms onto the world stage. The harbor buzzes with purpose. Warriors checking swords, shipwrights tightening rivets, women weaving sails that will catch the faintest breeze. On the beach, a grim ritual unfolds. 9 captives, taken in local skirmishes, are hanged in a grove for Odin, their blood an offering for success. The goatee moves among them, chanting, "Souls for the All-Father, victory for our ships." This is more than superstition, it's a cultural anchor, tying the fleet to their gods, their purpose sanctified by sacrifice. Ragnar's plan is ambitious. First, Lindisfarne. He tells his captains, "Its gold and silver are ours for the taking." Then we split. 5 ships to the northern islands for a base, 8 to the Frankish coast, the rest to hit English targets. This isn't the cautious probing of Bjorn's time. This is organized, strategic, a campaign built on decades of knowledge. The fleet sails as one, a line of dragon ships stretching across the horizon, their sails snapping in the wind. For the warriors, this is a chance for glory, wealth, a name that will live beyond their years. For Ragnar, it's a projection of power, a way to outshine the old chieftains. For their homeland, it's a release valve, channeling ambition outward before it fractures their society. As Lindisfarne looms, the raid unfolds with devastating precision. The monks are no match. Gold and silver are stripped, captives bound, resistance crushed. The fleet splits as planned, some ships heading north to establish a foothold, others probing Frankish and English coasts. The wealth they'll bring back will fund more fleets, more raids, while their reputation for terror grows. The Anglo-Saxon Chronicle will later call this a heathen devastation, a wound to the Christian heart. This is the Viking Age in full force. The Raven banner isn't just a flag. It's a declaration that the North is awake, ready to carve its name into history. The raids are no longer isolated, they're part of a larger strategy, driven by wealth, faith, and the need to resist a Christian empire pressing closer. As Ragnar's ships vanish into the sea, they're carrying the seeds of a transformation that will reshape Scandinavia and beyond. We're standing at the mouth of the Seine River, around 820 AD, watching longships glide into a bustling trading post. The air smells of fish and tar, and the docks hum with activity. Scandinavian traders unloading furs, Frankish merchants offering wine and cloth. Halfdan, now in his 60s, his scars a map of decades at sea, stands beside his son, Guthrum, who commands a ship of his own. "They used to flee our sails," Halfdan says, his voice rough with age. "Now they prepare goods and silver." This is the human wild, and we're exploring the legacy of the Vikings. A world of blood and silver, where raids gave way to settlements, trade, and a new global order. This settlement on the Seine is no accident. What began as Viking raiding camps are now permanent hubs, like Dublin and York, where Norse and local cultures blend. Halfdan's men trade amber for Frankish goods, their children speaking a mix of languages, some even marrying locals. "Our ships sail routes our fathers couldn't dream of," Halfdan tells Guthrum, his eyes on the horizon. He's talking about a network that stretches from the Arctic to Constantinople, fueled by silver, furs, and slaves. This economy is vast. Walrus ivory reaches Mediterranean ports, Islamic coins fund Scandinavian halls, and the slave trade, grim as it is, drives wealth southward. Back home, this wealth is transforming Scandinavia. Leaders like Sigurd build stone halls, mint coins, and rule as proto-kings. Settlements grow, their workshops crafting hybrid goods, Norse brooches with Celtic patterns, Slavic pottery in longhouses. Power is consolidating, tribes uniting into kingdoms. Religion is shifting too. Some Vikings adopt Christianity for trade or alliances, though Halfdan clings to Odin. Your children will pray to the White Christ, he tells Guthrum, sensing the inevitable. By the 11th century, Scandinavia will be Christian, its pagan roots fading but never gone. The human legacy is profound. Viking settlers in Normandy, the Danelaw, Iceland, and beyond leave genetic and linguistic traces. English words like sky and knife come from Old Norse. Dublin and York become major cities, their Viking roots shaping their future. We've built more than we burned, Halfdan muses, and he's right. The Vikings didn't just raid, they connected worlds, creating a medieval economy that outlasted them. As we stand on this dock, watching Norse and Frankish traders mingle, we see a new world taking shape. The terror of the dragon ships is giving way to partnership, integration, a legacy that's as much about silver as blood. But the scars of their violence remain, and we need to face them next. We're back on Lindisfarne shore. The year is 793 AD, and the air is thick with smoke and anguish. The monastery lies in ruins, its altars bare, its monks dead or chained, headed for a distant fate. The dragon ships have vanished, leaving a community shattered by a violence they never saw coming. A surviving monk, trembling in a hidden cave, clutches a cross, his prayers mixed with sobs. This is the human wild, and we're confronting the blood-dim tide. The horrific cost of Viking raids, the scars they left, and the changes they forced upon a shaken Europe. The devastation is stark. Bodies litter the ground, mostly men who resisted, blade cuts on their bones, skulls crushed by axes. The treasury is empty, its gold and silver gone, jeweled manuscripts stolen. But the deepest wound is human, young monks, servants, villagers, dragged to the ships for slave markets in Byzantium or the Islamic world. For those left behind, the loss is a gaping wound. No news of their loved ones, only haunting uncertainty. The Anglo-Saxon chronicle laments. The ravaging of heathen men destroyed God's church. For Christian Europe, this is more than theft. It's sacrilege, a challenge to their faith's supremacy. The terror is psychological as much as physical. Monasteries are sacred, their violation unthinkable. The Vikings' paganism amplifies the horror, casting their raids as a cosmic battle. Coastal communities live in dread, their prayers now begging protection from the fury of the Northmen. Archaeological sites show the aftermath. Burn layers, violent wounds, hidden hoards as people buried their wealth. The Vikings' precision, striking fast, taking only what's valuable, vanishing, makes them ghostly, unstoppable. But this terror sparks change. Survivors adapt, building watchtowers, reorganizing militias, moving treasures inland. Kings levy taxes for defenses, laying feudal foundations. By the mid-9th century, the element of surprise fades. Targets harden, forcing Vikings to scale up, turning raids into campaigns, camps into settlements. Imagine being a villager here, waking daily to scan the sea, your church's relics hidden, your lord's palisade new. Fear has made you vigilant, united, reshaping your world. The Vikings' violence is a brutal catalyst. It pushes kingdoms like Wessex to consolidate, accelerates feudal systems, and fuels Scandinavian kingship. The blood-dim tide isn't just destruction. It's transformation, forging a tougher, more connected Europe. As we stand amid Lindisfarne's ruins, we see both the horror and the legacy, a world remade by fire and ambition. We're standing on an Estonian shore in 2008. The Baltic wind sharp as archaeologists uncover the Somme burial ships, their timbers whispering secrets from 750 AD. The bones of 40 warriors, their swords still clutched, tell of violence, honor, and ambition. The proto-Vikings who began this saga. This is the human wild, and we're wrapping up the story of the Vikings' origins. A tale of desperation, innovation, and legacy that connected continents and reshaped history. These early seafarers, like Svend and Bjorn, were born from a harsh land. Frozen fields, failed harvests, too many mouths to feed. Their longships, sleek and versatile, carried them east to Styria Latiga, west to Lindisfarne, blending trade with violence. Those ships, built from scarce oaks and iron, were their superpower, letting them strike fast and vanish, linking the Baltic to Byzantium, the North Sea to the Mediterranean. The wealth they brought back, silver, gold, slaves, transformed Scandinavia, turning warlords into kings, tribes into kingdoms. Halls like Lidra grew grand, their workshops crafting hybrid treasures. Religion shaped their path. Early raids targeted Christian monasteries, a defiant strike against a faith threatening their gods. But contact with Europe changed them. By the 11th century, most Vikings were Christian, their pagan roots fading but never lost. Their economy was global Islamic silver, Arctic ivory, and slaves fueled a network that outlasted them. Settlements like Dublin and York became cities, their Viking roots enduring in stone and trade. The human legacy is vast. Viking genes linger in Normandy, the Danelaw, Iceland. Their words echo in sky, knife, berserk, but the blood-dimmed tide left scars, burned villages, stolen lives, communities haunted by fear. Yet that terror forced Europe to adapt, birthing feudal systems and stronger kingdoms. The Vikings weren't just destroyers, they were builders, connectors, weaving a new medieval tapestry. As we stand here, the Somme ships remind us of their dual nature, brutal yet visionary, pagan yet adaptive. Their saga isn't just history. It's a mirror of human ambition, resilience, and cost. What do you think? Were the Vikings monsters, pioneers, or both? Drop your thoughts in the comments, hit that like button, and subscribe to The Human Wild for more raw, epic stories from humanity's past. Let's keep exploring the wild together.